Travis has some big ideas for PRS matches this coming year. In this video, we're going to help him decide what to shoot. Gavin here from UltimateReloader.com. I'm back with Travis Fox, and we're here to talk about PRS matches, right? Because you've got some good goals this year.
Yes, sir, we do. So in the past, I've shot a few PRS matches, a few F-class matches, and I want to get back into it, and I want to up the game, and I'd like to be better at it.
That sounds like an awesome goal. Now, I'm hoping to shoot as well this year, but realistically, I'm not going to try and get competitive, right?
We're going to pull him along. He'll make it to some.
I want to be a part of the community, and I want to be a part of things, but really, if you're going to up your level and if you're going to be competitive, these guys out here that are shooting in these matches, and gals, are amazing. And it takes a high level of dedication. It takes a large expenditure of time and money for components. And you've really got to do a lot of training. Right?
A lot of practice.
So maybe I'll focus on building the rifles, and you can focus more on shooting the rifles, and then we'll maybe overlap a little bit too. How does that sound?
Sounds perfect. Okay, cool. Sign me up.
So we're going to discuss some different factors that you should go through, kind of like a decision tree. If you're thinking about shooting PRS, or if you've already shot PRS and you're looking at what's the latest, what is the current set of options, and how to decide what to shoot. So within the PRS Arena, right, you've got the Precision Rifle Series, you've got the NRL, two different organizations. Let's talk about, there's quite a bit of variety.
Local club matches.
Right, local club matches. Depending on the terrain that you're shooting in, you're going to have different variables, right?
Exactly. It all boils down a lot to what the match directors have to use for the competition. Are you using open terrain? Are you at a rifle club? Are you at what they consider like a square range? So the square range guys tend to run more barricade type matches where you're shooting multi-position off of barricades. The guys with the more open terrain, say like the Carstetter match, Eastern Washington, some of those guys, they're running more of what we consider maybe a field type match. Using natural features. All of them are run under time constraints for each shooting section. So your multi-position and time constraints across the board. So flexibility, mobility, the ability to use your bags, tripods, whatever other factors you might have, you need to practice those.
There's also different classes too, right? There's gas gun, there's tactical where you could be shooting 223 or 308, you know, and then there's open. Yeah,
there's quite a gamut there. Just depends on the match director, tactical, like you were saying, all these different. There's speed factors too is one thing you need to keep in mind. Most of them are running under 3,100 feet per second for the bullets. Helps save the steel. So there's a lot of factors to consider in your gear choice and what you're trying to accomplish.
So, and the nature of the match and the way that things are put together are going to affect what gear you're going to use, right? For instance, if you're barricade heavy, you are more recoil sensitive.
Yes.
And so, like, you know, if you want to do a 223 or a 223 AI, that might be a great choice because near zero recoil, pair that with a really heavy rifle, boom, you can see exactly what's going on.
For some of the square range, shorter matches, like under 1,000-yard matches where you're not getting more than 800 to 1,000 yards, the 223 is a great rifle to shoot for that. The open field matches where you're getting longer yardage, 1,200, 1,400 yards, you know, that's kind of a little bit long for that cartridge.
Also, being able to spot your hits and misses is super important, and that might even depend on the weather. For instance, around here, if you've had rain, you're not going to have a big dust cloud to see, two things, right? Where did I hit, and which direction is the wind blowing at the target? And so the heavier calibers are going to give you much better signature.
Right.
Whereas the lighter calibers, it's like, where did it go? And if you have really bad conditions in mud or something like that, it might just suck up a 308 bullet, right?
You won't be able to spot your trace. You won't be able to, you know, the bigger calibers, more recoil. It's harder to spot your trace. but you do get to see that impact if you can manage your recoil.
Yep. Cost, barrel life, barrel heat, the recoil, the different recoil signature, also concussive forces, right, and blast wave from a brake versus a suppressor. All these things, and suppressors heat up. They heat up really bad. So if you have a screamer like a 6 Creedmoor or something like that, and a suppressor, you know, you're going to have a cover over it, but it's going to get wicked hot.
Yeah, you're going to be shooting potentially 8 to 12 rounds in 90 to 120 seconds. Things are going to heat up.
Okay, so lots of things to consider. What we're going to do next is we're going to take some different angles and factors and break down some of the data to help us make this decision. So one of the first things people typically consider is what cartridge, right? Because that could steer you one direction or another on a lot of things, like what rifle platform you're going to shoot.
Exactly. You're going to pick the cartridge and pick the bullet and build from there. And all that is derived from what are you trying to achieve? Like we talked earlier, are you shooting at a square range with shorter distances? Are you shooting at a longer range and you need to have more impact at a further range and be able to see that impact?
Absolutely. So from small caliber to large caliber here, we've provided a breakdown of, these are actually rifles and barrels that we have here in the shop. And we have some data. This data here is from some of the loads that we've worked up. So this data will help you understand what kind of ballistic trajectory and performance that you're going to get. And just know that your results may vary quite a bit from this, depending on what bullet you're shooting and what kind of load development that you've done. You can push a lot of these modern rifles really, really hard, of course, with some downsides to your brass and you know, barrel heat and all that, and even recoil to an extent. So why don't we start with 223? This is going to be pretty much the least powerful cartridge that guys are going to shoot in a non-rimfire event at PRS.
Absolutely.
Right? 223 Remington.
It may be the least powerful. It may be the smallest bullet. But I'll tell you what, I've probably had more fun shooting a 223 bolt gun than many other bolt guns I've ever shot, because they're just so fun to shoot. Low recoil, you can spot your impact. You can shoot them all day long. It doesn't fatigue you. Shooting some of the bigger stuff does fatigue you over time. You shoot, you know, you get to 50 rounds and you're like, oh, this is tiring. 223, I've shot it all day long, bolt gun, and it's super fun. It does have downsides. You're not going to get the trace, you're not going to get the impacts, and you're not going to get the distance with it.
Right, and you can see here, this has got a pretty extreme drop-off past 800 yards.
Yeah, they do tend to fall on their nose a little bit.
Yep, like, you know, at 800 yards, it's still pretty decent. At 1,000 yards, wow, the difference, negative 413.3 inches of drop, you know, compared to in the 200s for the rest of the cartridges is pretty dramatic.
It kind of fell off a cliff there.
Yeah, but with laser rangefinders, and we don't have range uncertainty as a big issue this day and age, it's not something that you can't deal with. But like you're dropping like a rock there, you're also susceptible to the wind pretty badly too.
Very, yeah. That slow bullet is very much impacted by the wind.
Yep, and if the wind is blowing it off the target and you're having a difficult time spotting your signature because it's such a tiny bullet, you know, that's going to compound the problem.
Now, one of the things I want people to understand with the 223 and 308 is the same way. The rainbow trajectory that bullet has, like this, when you get to these long distances, what that does is your target, it actually becomes smaller because that target it's not impacting this whole surface area.
The projection is at an angle.
The projection is an angle, so your target actually gets smaller, and it makes it just really difficult. So the guys that shoot the TAC class, the 223, the 308s, and they're making impacts at these long distances, they have skill.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that's worth noting here is regardless of what cartridge you're shooting in competition, a 223 trainer is a popular configuration for a reason. Not a lot of barrel heat. You can focus on the math and the course rather than the recoil and the muzzle blast, right? The cost and the availability of components is great. You could even do 223 trainer stuff, you know, with military bulk ammo or something like that.
Absolutely.
Lots and lots of options. So I'm kind of thinking I should build a 223 trainer. More
That's
on
a good
that
idea, Gavin.
in just a little bit. Okay, the Valkyrie, stepping up to the Valkyrie, I'll talk about this one because I actually shot this rifle in a match, the Finlay Cup. And it is interesting because you step from 223 ballistics up to very similar to the Creedmoor class ballistics here.
It is impressive, the ballistics on that.
Yeah, like here for this particular load, I had less drop at 1,000 than I did for the load that we're showing here, the Hornady 108 ELDM load, right? 260 inches of drop compared to 288.
Yeah.
Now, you're still susceptible to the wind quite a bit, and you have not as good, signature. That was my main problem. I couldn't really spot my misses, and I couldn't see my trace as well. But ballistically, very, very good out to 1,000 in good conditions. I've shot a group of 4 shots sequentially that was inside about that.
Well, that's because you build good guns.
This is a good gun. And if you watch the Berger 80.5 laser beam story that we have, that's where that group came from and that load that we are showing right here, actually. And then I'll also talk about the next one, 6-Dasher. I mean, this is kind of a really good best of all worlds, I feel like. Because
Definitely.
If you look at the ballistic data here, we had basically the least amount of drop, and the recoil is
very minimal.
Absolutely manageable, especially on this rifle where we've got it weighed down there. We have that Area 419 Arc-A-Lock with internal weights on it, and it's just such a pleasure to shoot, right? It almost feels like you're down at a 223.
It does.
Kind of
it does
level.
very much feel like that.
Yep. Now, and we'll get more to this. It is a specialty cartridge, so you got to kind of be prepared to do your own loading and not have as many components available, especially on the brass.
I'm not going to buy these on the shelf.
Yeah. So the Creedmoors, you've spent quite a bit of time shooting our Zeus rifle back here, and we have all 3 of these barrels we've shown here: the 6, the 25. And the 6.5. Tell me what you feel like that is in terms of ballistic performance. We'll get to the rest of the factors in a moment.
Well, ballistic performance, they're all incredibly similar. Mm-hmm. They all feel, well, the 6 Creedmoor has very little recoil. It's a low recoiling rifle also.
But not like the 6-Dasher.
No, it is not like the 6-Dasher.
Yeah. But
it is a low recoiling. I have a 243 bolt gun, and this 6 Creedmoor does tend to recoil less. I think it's heavier. Super accurate, super fun to shoot, pretty laser beamish. Mm-hmm. You do get a bit of heat off of the barrel on this one. So you start doing some rapid fire shooting, and you can start to see that mirage a little bit. On a hot summer day, it's like it can tend to throw you off. The target starts wavering out there a little bit. Mm-hmm. But it's really fun to shoot, very flat. Then you step up to the 25 Creedmoor, though, with that 135 Berger. I've really, really enjoyed shooting that.
Or the 131 Blackjack, which is
right, or the 131 Blackjack.
PRS bullet.
Yeah, that's the first one that came out. Now, the 25 Creedmoor is kind of becoming a darling with some people because it can fill this PRS niche. It can fill the NRL Hunter. It's the smallest bullet for the NRL Hunter. Mm-hmm. We can talk about that more. But so you can shoot that one gun in both classes. So it's great to shoot. The 25 Creedmoor, though, you are losing out on the ability of bullet choices. Mm-hmm. Dies are a little bit harder to find.
You might have to create a hybrid die where you've got a bushing sizing die that you swap the bushings out and you make it work. And it works great. I mean, we've had good luck with it. But yeah.
And then you step up to the 6.5 Creedmoor, and I started running the 135 A-tip in the 6.5 Creedmoor. You can push it a little bit faster than the 140s and the 143s. Mm-hmm. You can push it a little bit faster. It's a very sleek bullet. It's very fast. Great BC. And then you can find those a lot of places. The Creedmoor stuff, they're everywhere. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of the new everybody's cartridge almost.
You've got manufacturers like Prime that are cranking out factory ammo that's suitable for PRS. I've had really good luck with a lot of the Federal Premium factory ammo out of my 6 Creedmoor and out of my 6.5 Creedmoor. Amazingly well, actually. So, yeah, it's definitely good to have those kinds of options if you want to run a rifle off the shelf. It's going to be much harder to find something specialty like a Valkyrie bolt gun that's suitable, or a 6-Dasher, that's suitable. And we'll get to barrel life, but it is kind of a low, medium, high kind of a thing, actually.
Absolutely.
With the 6 Creed, the 25 Creed, and the 6.5 Creedmoor. So, these to look at this data in a table is a little bit hard to decipher. So let's take a look at the graph. And you can see here how we've got this cluster of trajectories, right? 223 Remington is the absolute outlier. I mean, it, like you said, it's dropping kind of like a rock. To 600, it's really good, as you can see. It's still up there pretty tight in the group with the rest of them. But boy, once you get on there, it's not super pretty. It's interesting with the load that we chose here and the bullets that we compared, the 6 Creed and the 6.5 Creed are almost exactly the same.
Yep.
And then the 25 Creed and the 224 Valkyrie are also
almost the same.
Almost the same.
That's interesting.
And the 6 Dasher wins them all.
Of course.
Okay. So that's kind of a ballistics overview. And again, our rifles, our loads, you're going to see all sorts of different variations on these results. Next, let's talk about some of the other factors. So what we've got here is a few of the specific factors that are especially important, and we wanted to kind of rank them together for each of these cartridges that we're talking about. So you want to talk about the setup?
Yeah, so this is, of course, our thoughts on this. On the recoil part of the factor here, I went into GRT, Gordon's Reloading Tools, put in a 12-pound rifle with a 24-inch barrel on all of them, programmed the bullets that we were using, the velocity that we were using, and it gave me the recoil foot-pound energy on there. So you can see the 223 and the Valkyrie are both at 3 pounds of foot energy. The Dasher was 6, the 6 Creedmoor was 7, and then the 25 Creed and the 6.5 Creedmoor was 9 foot-pounds of energy at the buttstock.
So this does not take into account a lot of the variables that you're going to have on a real rifle, and we are working on scientific instrumentation for recoil analysis. So stay tuned for more information on that. But it is interesting to note here that you've got a 3-fold recoil factor for the 25 Creedmoor and the 6.5 Creedmoor compared to the 223 Remington. And there are cases, like I'll use, hey, shout out to Matt Hornback. I know you are really, really big on low recoiling rifles, especially when you're doing the positional shooting off of barricades, right? Because if you disrupt your sight picture, you're kind of screwed. If you can see where your miss was and you can compensate for it with a quick follow-up shot, that's a huge, huge advantage.
Absolutely.
Now, of course, with that smaller bullet, you're going to have a harder time seeing the signature.
Yeah.
So it is at the very same time, definitely, you know, there's these trade-offs, I guess, is the best way to say that.
So then we go on to the wind factor. And the wind factor that we kind of look at here is a combination of the velocity, the ballistics, the BC of the bullet, and the sectional density of the bullet. And it's pretty obvious to look at the chart and figure out how that's going to go. The 223 is going to have the most effect by the wind. The Valkyrie's next, the Dasher, and then the Creedmoor. Now, the 25 Creed and the 6.5 Creed, if you look at the ballistics, the 25 Creed in a 135 bullet is actually a higher BC and a higher sectional density. So they're running pretty neck and neck on that.
Yeah, and keep in mind, you know, 25 is between 6 and 6.5. You've got 243, 257, and 264. It's not right in the middle. It's definitely closer to 6.5.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to note that you do have less recoil. And recoil is probably the main reason why you'd step from a 6.5 Creedmoor down to a 25 Creedmoor. Now, I would note, if you're just getting started in PRS, focus on the fundamentals and just pick a good cartridge.
Yeah.
Like 6 Creedmoor, if you're willing to deal with the bad barrel life and the barrel heat and all that, would be a great trade-off of all those factors, the availability of everything and all that. As your skills progress, and it's not all about just, can I even find the targets and, you know, mag in, bolt back, and getting through the stage in 90 seconds and hitting 4 different targets at 4 different ranges, then, and when you can deal with the wind and you can read the mirage, then you're going to maybe think about the difference between a 6.5 Creedmoor and a 25 Creedmoor. Yeah. Right? And I've got a lot of work to do in my own shooting to fully step into that space, that domain where there's that meaningful of a difference between the two. And you really have to do this on a regular basis. I was discouraged about my placement in some of the matches, and then I talked to all the guys that were mid-pack and upwards, and I found out they were all shooting 10 plus matches a year.
Yeah.
And that's each match is a major commitment. You're driving somewhere, you're prepping, you're, putting on your match barrel if you have a trainer barrel on, and all that stuff. So like, it's just, don't be discouraged. Go there to have fun, and go there to increase your own skills. Those are my main motivations. It'll make you a better hunter too.
Yeah. So then we come over to this trace impact, and again, this is fairly obvious. The 223 cartridges, the Remington and the Valkyrie, are both, the impact at distance is going to be difficult.
You might be shooting the same bullet. Like a Berger 77 OTM would work good in either.
Yeah, absolutely.
A little more velocity on the Valkyrie, but that's not going to help you a whole lot seeing your signature, right?
No.
Yeah.
Then the Dasher and the 6 Creedmoor, you're going to get an acceptable impact. Now, the Dasher and the Creedmoor, that 105, 110 grain bullet, they tend to hit pretty hard sometimes on some of the closer targets. So you can get a good splash with them. But then of course the Creedmoor and then the 6.5 Creedmoor is going to give you the best splash.
Yep. Not a whole lot of difference between the 25 and the 6.5 there.
No.
Okay, so next, pros and cons.
So we're going to go back over and high level our summary of the things we've already talked about, kind of tighten it up a little bit. So the 223 Remington, you're going to have a pro of a low cost, availability of components, and low recoil. You can shoot this thing all day long. It's not going to be as expensive, and it's not going to tire you out.
Super good barrel life too.
Yeah, true, very true. Yeah, you can probably, how many thousands of rounds do you think you can get out of 223?
6,000 plus.
Oh, at least.
Yeah.
Now the cons, in a match, you're going to have low impact signature. You're going to have just, the trajectory is just not there. Okay, you're not going to be able to reach those far targets very easily. It is going to take a lot of practice to do.
And sometimes it might not be feasible if you're in a high wind situation where you've got 40 mile per hour winds, which is not unheard of.
Right.
It might be much less realistic to actually hit anything at distance.
Yeah. I will say, local club match on a square range, take your 223 bolt gun and go have fun with it, because they're a hoot to shoot. Especially like suppressed. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
If you don't have a 223, consider a 223 AI maybe. You get a few more feet per second. Just don't lose your brass.
Yeah, definitely. One other pro here, actually, that we didn't think about, or at least put in the chart here, is you can run in the tactical class.
Right, sure.
And the tactical class is a smaller group of people at the match, and if your luck is right, you might have less competition and be able to shine, and then you have to deal with the challenge maybe of running a 223, right? Or a 308 instead of whatever your optimal cartridge would be.
Absolutely, yeah. Then we step up to the 224 Valkyrie, where we're still going to have a low powder volume if you're reloading, and so low cost there, and low recoil once again. But you do get a step up in your velocity, so that's going to help you out. You're going to have another low impact signature, and the wind effect again. The other thing with the Valkyrie and coming up onto the Dasher is you're going to have an adapter on your magazine. You'll notice on this gray one here, the cartridges are shorter. You cannot run the full length.
Yeah, there's actually like a follower in the back here, right? Not a follower, but kind of a spacer, right? The follower is custom 3D printed. This is from Primal Rights. It's worked pretty well, but it's not as reliable as something like a 6.5 Creedmoor out of a 308 AICS mag. This magazine is for the Dasher, and this is a factory offering from MDT, and has worked really well. Not quite as well as a factory cartridge in a factory round, but really, really good. Yeah, and then another con about the Valkyrie is it is a custom gunsmithing kind of situation, in that the bolt face is basically 6.8 SPC, and that's pretty specialized.
It is.
And it's hard to find a bolt gun with that bolt face. The guys at Benchmark actually took my bolt and opened up the bolt face. They did some filling on it and then machining or whatever, and got that done really, really nicely. But just know that, while there are some factory offerings for Valkyrie and a bolt gun, it's more of a specialty thing. Yep.
On that note, on the 224 Valkyrie, another consideration you might have is if you have a fastest 22-250, you could run that also. Just keep your speeds down, please, and don't ruin the steel.
Right, true, because you could definitely go almost 1,000 feet per second over.
Oh yeah. So then we step down to the 6 Dasher, and again, with this one, this is Gavin's baby here. Low recoil, high velocity, flat shooting, low powder volume. So while you have a specialty item here and you have to have a special brass for it,
like Alpha Munitions is what I run, and it's absolutely amazing.
You're not running that high volume powder to get that velocities that you get with this thing. It's an awesome cartridge. So really, really good.
Also, being a 6, there are a lot of really good projectiles. The Berger 105 hybrid,
tons.
The Berger 109, and then we ran the Hornady 110 A-tips. They all shoot out of this particular rifle super, super well. So I would list that as a pro, although all of these bullets, except the 25s, are really pretty prolific in terms of all the options. Yep. Yeah.
So then we got the cons for the 6-dasher, like I was talking about, the brass. It's not everywhere. Custom magazines again, and a little bit of a lack of splash on those distance targets.
Yeah, with any 6, it's a compromise, right?
Yeah. You don't have a 6-dasher, you have a 6BR, something like that maybe.
You could run a 6 Creedmoor too. I mean, it's all trade-offs, right?
And then we'll talk about that. The 6 Creedmoor now, there's a lot of guys shooting that, factory ammo, flat shooting, low recoil, very popular cartridge. You could neck down 6.5 Creedmoor if you needed to. Lots of bullet choices.
Oh, absolutely, just like the Dasher. Yep.
Now, the con on this one, you can smoke your barrel on this, and you can get mirage on a hot summer day with a lot of rounds going down it.
Let's talk about that for a second. The numbers I've heard are as little as 800 rounds with the 6 Creed barrel. That is pretty bad. With the 25 Creed, you're going to be somewhere in the middle. With the 6.5 Creed, 2,600 rounds maybe, something like that. So, say your 25 Creed is 1,800 rounds, or something like that. You could double your barrel life by going from the 6 to the 25, for instance, potentially. All
that barrel life stuff is all dependent on how you shoot the gun. This rapid fire shooting under competition, under the time frame, will cook your barrel.
Yeah.
If you're just using this gun for plinking, for having fun, it can last a lot longer, a significant amount longer, because you're letting the barrel cool down between shots. But those throats get eroded so quickly because they get that heat built up in them, and it's big.
Yep.
So if you don't have a 6 Creedmoor, do you have a 243 Winchester? Go shoot that in a competition. See how it does. Yeah, you're going to get almost exact velocities out of it.
Yep.
So then we go down and we talk about that 25 Creed. It's unique. It's kind of an oddball. People are going to be like, oh, wow, you're shooting a 25 Creed. Cool. Flat shooting, great impact because you're getting a 130 to 135 grain bullet, depending on which one of the two you're using. But that kind of becomes the issue with the lack of bullet selection. Specialized dies, they are a little bit tougher to find. Guys that are shooting in competition, you tend to go through a lot of consumables, and if you're going through a lot of consumables and the supply dries up, you're stuck. And so that could be a problem.
Yeah, definitely. And 270 Winchester, right?
Yeah.
If you've got one.
If you got one, shoot one. And I hope you guys can look at this. What we're trying to get you guys to do is, if you want to go shoot a competition and you have a rifle, just go do it. Just go give it a shot, I didn't mean the pun. But.
Nice one.
And then there's a ton of you guys out there that have the 6.5 Creedmoor, okay? So factory ammo everywhere. It is the most mass-produced ammo in the United States right now, even more than the 308 from what I've read.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So it's popular, large selection of components. Now, if you're reloading, you want to shoot H4350, sometimes that might be a little difficult to find, but there's Stay Ball, there's a Vitivatori N550 out there that
555
or 555 that we have found that works well.
Yeah.
Got some great SDs out of that powder. We're pretty happy with that.
Yeah, definitely.
It is going to give you more recoil depending on your bullet selection. But it's popular, it's out there, and they're found everywhere.
Another thing you should think about, and this is a side thing, is what would you want to hunt with? Because really, all of these rifles are actually really good for certain hunting applications. Like the 6-dasher, I would totally take that deer hunting any day of the week. If I knew I needed to take like a long shot, and wanted this rifle as my hunting rifle, that would be absolutely awesome. 6.5 Creedmoor, really, really versatile, you know, for a wide variety of different hunting applications, gets you up into the higher level there. So anyways, all that to say, if you also want to hunt with your competition rifle, I think that's a pretty cool scenario. And, you know, that might, you know, influence your decision. Now, you might also want to run the NRL Hunter class, right?
Right. So if you're going to do that, then like we were talking about earlier, 6.5 PRC, that's the cartridge I think to run
Which
for that.
we've got over here. Yeah. And if you look at the 6.5 PRC next to its little brother, the 6.5 Creedmoor, you're going to see some similarities, but it's basically just larger in diameter, right? It's got the Magnum bolt face. It's got more powder capacity. It is a Magnum version of the 6.5 Creedmoor, which is really awesome because as we're finding out with our ballistics gel testing, you know, velocity matters. You know, a couple hundred feet per second can make a huge difference on what the wound channel looks like and what your expansion looks like. And we didn't put 308 Winchester on this list. Do you know why? Because probably the best reason is to run in that TAC class, right? And people compete with 308, people succeed with 308, but it is kind of more now a specialty, you know, cartridge.
Isn't that crazy?
It is really crazy than the mainstay, and I would much rather go down to a 6.5 Creedmoor or some of these other options.
Well, it's pretty amazing to shoot a 308 and then go shoot a 6.5 Creedmoor. The recoil difference is significant.
It's substantial.
Yeah, it really is. And I kind of think the 6.5 PRC is actually even somewhat easier to shoot than the 308.
Okay. I believe it. Yeah.
You know,
that's consistent with what I've felt.
Yeah. So I'm hoping to shoot that 6.5 PRC in an NRL Hunter match this year.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, we're going to help Travis think about his dream rifle. Okay, so after all of that deliberation, what cartridge or cartridges do you think you'd pick?
Easy peasy. Pick the 6-dasher or the 25 Creed.
Nice.
Why? I like how they shoot. They're just super fun. It's going to depend on the match, though, and where the match is at and the conditions for that day for which way I would go.
Love it. Okay, so what are you going to wrap around your 6-dasher or 25 Creed chamber?
Okay. Stock chassis would be either the foundation stock, love that feeling of that stock, or the XLR Element magnesium chassis. We've got some weights on this one. We have run this chassis on 22 rimfire. We've run it on...
We've run the dasher in there.
Man, the dasher. We've put like almost all the guns on this.
308 we've got in there.
This is my 308 trainer I put on here with the Athlon, which is this Midas tack on here. So I really like chassis. I've always loved chassis, but the foundation and the way it feels, that kind of dead feeling it has, is so pleasant to shoot.
And it's heavy. I like the fact that it's got a lot of mass to it if that's what you need for your match.
The cheek piece is adjustable. I like everything about it. I am a chassis kind of guy, but either one of those are perfect.
Well, the Element would give you the flexibility. Let's say you wanted to adjust the weight for, you know, the Hunter class or for PRS. You can run it lighter if you need to. You can really load it down if you had some positional shooting where you're going to be even more recoil sensitive. Well, what about your action, and what about your barrel, and what about your optic?
Love those bad actions. We're going to be running the bad actions.
The TR?
Yes, absolutely. And the benchmark barrels. Yep, benchmark.
Yep. I mean, what I like about the TR, I have run a PRS match with it, is it runs super slick. It's hard to describe. It's super slick even when you're running it in a dusty environment. And I was talking with Bruce Tom at Bat Machine about their strategy with that, and that was something that they were actually intentional about, is the slickness but also the reliability. You know, they're not running the kind of tolerances where moon dust will just bind the whole thing up.
Yep.
Which is pretty cool. Okay, well, so what about the optic then?
I don't know.
I mean, there's the optic and then there's the reticle, right? Both are super, super important for PRS.
Yeah. It'll probably be one of the Athlons. We have a couple different ones with a couple different reticles that I like. I do love the Mark V a lot. This reticle in this one that we have is honestly not my favorite. I like some of the other reticles a little bit better. But man, the dials on this thing, they're so nice. They're so very nice.
And we know it runs really, really
very true.
reliably because of the groups that I've shot with this rifle. Right?
So I can probably get over the reticle on this one. So I bet you'd be between this and the Kronos.
The Kronos, yeah, the Athlon. Yeah, that thing is really, really, really clear.
Yeah. Yeah. So then my other option that I'm looking at, that I'm trying to debate on, I really like shooting suppressed. I like to shoot suppressed all the time. It's just so nice. You know, we run mufflers on our cars. I like to run I like to run a suppressor on my rifles too. Right. It's very nice.
But not a fuel filter.
Correct. No fuel filters. You know, muzzle brakes are great for controlling your muzzle rise, and in a competitive setting, the muzzle brakes are better than the suppressor because they control that barrel and they keep it level. They keep mitigating on the recoil better.
So you know what I would run?
But
Maverick, because it's kind of the best of both of those worlds, and you can configure it too.
Sure, but then we have these the Eric Cortina tuner brakes also. Yes. And this is why I put the tuner brake on the 308 Trainer. We're going to see how that does for tuning that up for recoil management.
Yep. One of the biggest advantages with the EC tuner brake is, you know, in a PRS environment, you want to pick a velocity, and you want to work up a load where you're going to get a consistent velocity, but then that enables you to tune the barrel harmonics so that you can also get optimal grouping. And I think that one of the biggest advantages is probably save you a lot of time instead of having to find the overlap of those two worlds of the accuracy node and the speed node.
That was what I was going to do. I was going to find velocity that I liked with a low SD and then tune that baby up.
Nice. Okay, so 2 questions for you all. First, should Travis shoot the 6 Dasher or the 25 Creed? Please vote one way or the other. The second question, if you're going to be shooting PRS this year, what are you going to shoot? What cartridge? What rifle? Tell us all about it.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Yeah, we've got a lot of work to do. We will keep you all posted. This is going to be a ton of fun this year with these matches. So you got to make sure you're subscribed with notifications so you don't miss any of that. That concludes this video, and that means it's time to wrap it up. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. Also, make your voice heard. If you have something to say, please drop a comment. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications because you're not going to want to miss the awesome content that is coming up. And finally, flex your reloading pride. You could look great in one of these t-shirts. We've got multiple designs at the Ultimate Reloader store. I'll see you later because I'm off to go shooting.